So while this is coming up, my name's Stefan Bokaie, and I'm from Dorado Software. I apologize for those of you who've been in Lisbon. I'm going to say a few words that are repeat. Amir, I'm going to apologize to you first because I know you were there and Paul was there. Well, Paul didn't listen to my talk over there, so so it's all right. So we'll do it pretty fast here. I wear two hats. So one hat that I wear, and the founders of SONiC are all over here. Lee was here, Gohan's here sitting back there, Jen here giving real nice talks. So those are, to me, those are the founders with Dave, who was here. I don't know if Dave's still here. So to me, that's the four amigos, and then certainly Alibaba being there, but I didn't have a pleasure to meet them. My function was in the early days of SONiC. We were working with Microsoft. I was part of the Dell's team, and quite a number of the folks over here are my colleagues, and I'm glad to see everybody kind of distributed out and really pushing SONiC forward. So that's one hat. The second hat is I'm a CTO of Dorado Software. Dorado is a management orchestration platform that has been in business for 20-some years or so. And I was in semi-retirement. CEO came and said, hey, we really want to get into SONiC business. And I feel kind of, there's a picture somewhere that I was supposed to sign in blood that I shall support SONiC from the day that SONiC was born. So we're maybe next talk that I have, we'll put that picture up. So SONiC is kind of a step cousin or whatever, step nephew, not cousin, step nephew. Furthermore, I know Hanif is here, so we work very closely together in introducing Enterprise SONiC, and my hat's off to actually Broadcom, and I know there's so much to be said in terms of, hey, the Enterprise SONiC and community, Harden, this, that. But I believe the needle had to be moved beyond just Microsoft and Alibaba. Needle had to be moved, and I do appreciate all the investment that has gone in there and continues to go there to move the needle. So I'll leave it at that. 5 slides, actually 5, I think. I'm going to take it a little bit of a different direction, looking at edge and edge compute. Okay. I'm not going to get into the hyperscalers business. Microsoft's been here. I'm not going to go into Gen AI. There's been a lot of talk about that. I will talk briefly about AI at the edge, very briefly on what we know. And my point of view as it's coming out is in working with quite a number of actually carriers and really understanding the pain points. So as it gets into compute at the edge. Little background, all of you are quite aware of this, so I'm not going to go into the architecture. You're aware of all the different varieties of SONiC which is available today. And I apologize if some of you have other varieties which is not reflected over there. I know the campus, Marvell just coming out of the campus, so I'm really appreciative of that. The point here to me is that SONiC is kind of touted as the Linux of networking operating systems. It's not quite there yet. We work with, at Dorado, we work with Gartner, work with Del Oro. They all come out and ask, okay, how's the deployment, how's the acceptance of SONiC in the networking realm? And if you look at Gartner's projections, if you take Microsoft, Alibaba out of it, hyperscalers out of it, by the end of this year, it could be about 500 installation in the data centers, which is the biggest footprint for SONiC. 500 out of 10,000, 0.5%. Okay. Now, the TAM from a dollar value is huge. It's just $2 billion, and it goes more. So I'm not going to minimize it, but it is something that we need to continue to work on and essentially make sure that we don't take our eyes off the ball in terms of, oh, okay, it is a Linux of networking. So that's the point that I want to make over here. So let's go to the edge. What's happening at the edge, there was a workshop next door. I attended a couple of the workshops, and working with our partners, sitting back there with their customers, and which is our customers as well. The opportunity at the edge is there's disaggregation at the edge, and disaggregation coming in for the telcos in terms of really looking at virtualization of the network functions, okay? Virtualization of the network functions is really bringing compute into areas and essentially now has really opened the door in discussions around open networking at the edge as well. So the telcos are looking at what happened about 5, 6, 7 years ago when open networking came out. I know at Dell, Dell worked with Cumulus, Big Switch, all of the guys who were in open networking, ultimately SONiC coming out. A big drive into commoditization of the hardware, of the switching hardware. And now the telcos, they're coming to the same kind of a conclusion that, hey, I want to get into that business. But the challenges are a little bit different. Now, the other piece that you have to remember here is that 5G is starting to get into maturity. Some estimates, it's really getting at the 5-year deployment of a 10 years, I don't know, right or wrong, but it's starting to get into certain maturity. So looking at the maturity which exists there, and then there's the explosion of the IoT devices. When you look at the IoT devices, we at Dorado, we have one customer that, I was talking to the CEO, and he mentioned we get 2.2 million events on one of our platforms that is managing the entire network last year, 2.2 million. So we actually manage quite a number of their IoT devices in addition to some of the compute and the networking gear that they have. So that explosion is just going up, and I'm not even counting AI into it. The 5G also is really starting to be contemplated and deployed with the private, so the private 5G. So you look at the Walmarts, you look at the Targets, so they are looking at private 5G. And again, all of those are bringing in opportunities for the providers to say, okay, how do I monetize this? Okay. And the big piece, again, I go back and say that the transition to the open networking is not easy. It's complicated. It is not an easy thing, and it's not uniform. And those are some of the stuff that I'm going to talk in the second slide from here. That those are some of the challenges that we're looking at from an orchestration platform. So this is something that we have to be very, very cognizant of as we look at the edge. And edge compute, again, not including hyperscalers. So you look at Microsoft, well, Dorado platform is not going to do anything for Microsoft because Microsoft's going to basically have their intent-based processes, procedures for how they manage, whether it's an edge, whether it's a data center. Okay. So what are the opportunities? The cost efficiency from the open networking and then with the NFVI. One question that was lobbed at me by one of my old colleagues in Lisbon was that, hey, at the edge, when I talk to my customer, that they're actually virtualizing everything as part of the disaggregation. And you know what? They want to get rid of the switches. When you look at cell-site routers, you look at I know Mavenir came out with the VCSR, but ultimately, when we look at it, is that if you believe that there is actually no switches at the edge, that's one view. But certainly, we believe that there is an underlay fabric that needs to be there. And then also from an edge compute, there is actually going to be a tremendous explosion of potential smaller data center or even larger data center at the edge compute. So there needs to really be a complete end-to-end solution that needs to be very focused for the edge compute. SONiC is a good fit. Why is it a good fit? I mean, you saw so many presentations over here in terms of it can be adapted and adopted to run on various platforms. You know, Mavenir has done it, the VCSR. There are other, the work that Shasta has done with Broadcom and Marvell actually announced today. So it can really go down the footprint. I know that there's, some areas that the footprint could go smaller, but it can really get adapted to various platforms. So it is a good option to actually be considered for the edge. And again, from an overall scalability, it goes, the question that came up, hey, those switches there, the gig switches, not even terabit, but it actually goes all the way to the 52.1 terabit, the 800 gig switch that Broadcom's coming out, and NVIDIA has them, and so forth. So SONiC can actually play in the entire range. So it's a great fit. It can really fit nicely with the disaggregation that is happening at the edge. Okay, this is my bit on AI, and that's all I'm going to talk about here. The piece about the AI, I talked to one carrier, and they're saying that we have no idea how to actually monetize a clear idea of how to monetize AI at the edge. Would you move the data from the edge? And this is one of the big things. Hey, leave the data at the edge, and we're going to do, if we do inferencing, let's now move that data back to the core, and let's do it at the edge. Well, not always. Maybe that data is easier to get moved to the core. You may have, there may be, national autonomy issues, security issues. You may not be able to leave it there, or you may not be able to move it. But at the end of the day, sometimes the cost of the move may be smaller, and then maybe easier for the customer. So these are big carriers that are looking at this and saying, well, we don't know. And then what do you do for autonomous driving? Are you going to rely on, for example, inferencing at the edge with the autonomous driving? Well, I wouldn't trust that car, if it's just inferencing based on, hey, me driving into a single neighborhood, So this is all evolving, okay? And then the other piece of the AI at the edge is there's been some talks over here. So think of it as a genome project. It would take the sequencing, the human gene sequencing would take more than a month. Today, it's about 5 minutes. So that's a direction, if you look at the inferencing, probably that's the direction that we're taking, and therefore, do we need the really large back end, from a we, in this case, meaning the telcos and enterprises, the very large back end investments to the GPU networks. It's evolving. So there's a lot of movement, and from an orchestration standpoint, we are being very cognizant. So we're being conservative. We're not making huge announcements. I'm waiting for Hanif to come back and say when. Where's Hanif? So Hanif's got to come back and say when does Broadcom going to introduce a single command on Rocky V2, so I can go and hit and say this is how I'm going to set up Rocky V2 for my back end, or even in some cases in the front end networks. So ultimately, from an orchestration standpoint, from an Ethernet front end, easy to do for most of our platforms. I know Beyond Edge can do it. We can do it from a back end. We haven't made the announcement. We'll make the announcement. Setting up the back end, orchestrating the back end is something that we all going to have it. We're going to have it all in our back pockets. The same way we do back end orchestration today for storage. Same thing. Scale is higher. I agree with what Amir was saying, but at the same time, the tool sets will be very similar to what we're used to. So that's on the AI. The challenges. So this is essentially the last one and my takeaway. When we talk to the customers at the edge, so from a CTO side, they look at it and say, hey, I want to go with the open networking. I want to actually virtualize everything, and go forward and get to the cost efficiency. On the operational side, well, I mean, some of these folks are all used to working with ACI, working with the integrated vertical stack. Can you do that with the open networking today? You can't. Today, you can get halfway there. You can find the support, but it's piece and parcels. And so we really have to work towards, and this is from a community standpoint, and something that we are very cognizant at Dorado, that we have to work towards something that could actually give similar kind of an experience to the customer. And I'm putting feature functionality aside, but from a single neck to choke and deployment, we have to continuously work towards that one. The transitions are very complex. This is not an easy, hey, it's all greenfield. Some of these are very complex transitions from a brownfield standpoint that, hey, how do I go and continue to manage my network and move from what I have to where I want to go, which is much more cost effective. And furthermore, we actually have heard from customers that come back and say, hey, so the operational guy, the NetOps guy are saying, I have 100 CCIE guys. What am I going to do with those? So we have to be very cognizant, and there is no one-size-fits-all from a management standpoint. In the edge, you got to play nice with Prometheus. You got to play nice with tools that especially on the telco side, that they have developed for years in order to monetize and help them go forward. So we are cognizant that, hey, we are there to actually set up and truly orchestrate the fabric and then play very nice, and then slowly, if there's something that we can do, we'll evolve our platforms and make those deliveries. So we've paid a lot of attention to our automation center capabilities, which is beyond the fabric orchestration. And then lastly, when we look at it is, from an orchestration standpoint, the scale-out piece is really an important piece. So the architecture from an orchestration has to accommodate scale out. You can't get away with, okay, well, I'm going to do one data center with so many switches, so many fabrics. So that's a simple one. But if you have to kind of scale out, well, how do you scale it out, and how do you consume all of those events and everything that comes in? Network slicing. SONiC accommodates slicing. We have it as part of our platforms. Today, slicing is there in its absolute necessity for monetization. The ideal scenario is a dynamic slicing, which means that, hey, I can turn up a certain fabric at a certain time, turn it back down. So there is a level of, the static slicing is there, but the dynamic one, not mature enough and not trusted enough. But that has to be coming in from a essentially intent base. So this is just a summary of what we've observed from Dorado. And the call to action for us is that we really need to have the investments into different versions of SONiC. I was really glad to hear a couple of the presentations here as people are truly investing in that area. And furthermore, Gohan, my friend, we need to somehow get that ingestion process to go by faster. I don't know if we can do it anything from a process standpoint, but we need to kind of open up that funnel a little bit so we can ingest it. But maybe I'm sitting on the side and maybe it's already happening. But that's something that I've heard from others or from partners who are trying to contribute and they can't actually get it in. That's about it. That's okay, time. I think I'm. Any questions? Amir.
Great talk, Stefan. You talked about the challenges that one throw to choke, and I echo that. Because actually some of the experience of the regular enterprises, I'm talking about the hyperscalers or all the things that have the armies, I'm talking about the ITs that are oversubscribed and don't have enough people. The challenge that Cumulus, Big Switch, Pluribus, all of these got acquired and then poof, disappeared and got this end of life, end of support beautiful message, which by the way we gained from it. But I think there's another call to action for SONiC to do a little bit better, on getting to a wider crowd. You're preaching, everybody here preach to the choir, right? Everybody here, ooh, SONiC, SONiC. You go outside, across the road, and nobody, SONiC what? Like it's the burger place. So today, I saw the announcement that SONiC put that EPFL, École Polytechnique of Lausanne, and Denver DataWorks joined. And that was fantastic because EPFL is a university in Switzerland, and they've been user of SONiC. So I think the calls for action is actually get more regular companies involved. We were last week at OCP talking about metal company presenting, oh, we use OCP and we save so much money, agility, et cetera. So I think, with support of Dorado and other players in that, we need more enterprises, voices, not just Microsoft, NVIDIA, all of these guys.
You got it, Amir. That was my presentation in Lisbon. I didn't want to repeat that one because that's when I really showed the 4 tiers of the areas that SONiC needs to get expanded. Enterprise was one of my first actually tiers, and here I just want to focus on the edge. But you're absolutely correct, and that's why I was very much happy to see Marvell's announcement, maybe other announcements coming up. And for us, from a management standpoint, I gave the example that we've gone to enterprises with our partners and basically talk about fabrics, and the operators looking at you like you're crazy. They say, hey, what the hell is a fabric? They talk about closets and distribution frames and so forth, and we're talking about, oh, hey, fabrics, underlays and overlays and VXLAN and dual home, EVPN and et cetera, whatever. So we've taken action in terms of really supporting and coming out with solutions that actually meet the enterprises just head on as a replacement to a stack configuration. It needs to be there. And the same thing on the edge, we then need to really adapt well in terms of the operation for the telcos. And we can't just speak data center language to the telco because even though they understand fabrics, but still it's a little bit different. What do you do with the IoTs? What do you do with the compute? What do you do with the storage? So,
and just to build on that, I think keyword in enterprises is stability.
Yeah.
And you need to tell them SONiC is your stable ground. They have nobody can buy that.
Yeah, it's not so much SONiC is the entire solution. So they look at the entire solution. They really don't care what you're running there. But no, I appreciate it. I appreciate the comments. All right, time to...
Yeah, how many slice network you can push for at the edge?
Say again, sorry.
Yeah, how many slice network or VRF can you push at the edge?
You got me there now. I don't know how many VRFs. In the slicing, either it's in a...
I think you don't need many from your application, right?
Right.
At this point.
We don't need that many.
Right.
But it also depends on what will be the platform that is getting deployed. But you're absolutely, yeah. So it doesn't need too many. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
How do you deal with fragmentations, with SONiC ecosystem fragmentation, and what do you recommend to do with this?
On the, for example, segmentation routing towards the backhaul?
Fragmentation of the different SONiC flavors, different SONiC bands.
Yeah. It's a great question. We can have a completely separate session on that one. The way I look at it is you look at the present and you look at the future. At the end of the day, a SONiC is SONiC. And what we look for and look at is, can there be a consistent northbound interface eventually that we can all plug in? If it's not there from an orchestration platform today, what we're doing is that we're treating them as a little bit different, but at the heart of it is still SONiC. So as we project forward, I think there will be more more collaboration with the management framework of SONiC. So it is a great question, but you have to look in the future.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
I think we're done.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very
Stefan.
much. Thank you.